Good morning. It is 6:55 a.m. on Wednesday, May the 5th, 2021. Revenge of the 5th. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I've kind of been up for a little bit. This is 5 more minutes. Sorry, I briefly started this earlier and then had to interrupt it because just by virtue of doing laundry, I ended up my regular bed comforter wasn't dry yet all the way when it was bedtime last night, and so I pulled an old one out of the closet and then remembered, it's like, oh right, the reason I put this one away in the closet is because a little puppy dog had chewed a hole in it. And so I was in the middle of doing my first video when Rocket, I realized, was over there widening the hole. And so then I went over and I sprayed bitter apple spray on it, and now he's mad. He's just being high maintenance this morning. It's just everything's making him mad. He's grumbling and whining. What is it, buddy? What is it? Staring. But yeah, so he's definitely just being a high maintenance boy this morning, which happens. Um, what are you doing, buddy? Um, yeah, so like he wanted to keep chewing the hole in the comforter, and now it tastes bad, and just like, but it's so unfair. You're so unfair. Silly little dog. But yeah. So last night we had our first, we had a first so many levels in a couple of weeks, um, and it was still just this thing where like the number of players we had available kept sort of shifting and changing all the way down to just two, and that meant I really had to be on my toes as a DM, because I was thinking like, okay, well, I want to try to support whoever it is that can play, but in a way that it won't interfere too much with the main story that I don't want to progress without all the available players. And so I kept having to shift it around. It's like, okay, well, maybe we'll do this, and okay, maybe we'll do that. And so then when it came down to just two, it's like, oh gosh, so I kept having to reinvent it. And that was honestly giving me a little bit of anxiety yesterday, but I feel like it worked out pretty well. And honestly, I think it was good for me in the end. It gave me a little bit of a boost with as far as just confidence in terms of like, oh yeah, I can work with this. I know enough stuff that I can figure out a way to have a little side quest without it necessarily being, you know, uh, this Herculean challenge, right? So I was able to just, like, yeah, just put something together, and it worked out just fine. Like, I don't think it was one of the most memorable episodes ever, but I feel like we got some good stuff. I feel like it was a little bit lighter, lighthearted, but still, a little bit spooky, which was, yeah, I feel like that went pretty well. So, getting that moving forward, but hoping that we'll have more of our our crew available for next week. Um, yeah, and then oh, okay, now I know what I was gonna. I spent a bunch of this saying like, wait, what was I talking about before? What was this video about before I got all that distraction? And the answer, which I will just leave in the last little bit here, is to say I finished yesterday the audiobook for Gideon the Ninth by Tasman Muir, um, which is a sci-fi book where, kind of the tweet I made about it, where I realized only afterwards that I was replicating almost exactly the cover quote from Charles Stross, which is basically this book is, um, so my paraphrase of it is, lesbian necromancers exploring a haunted house escape room in space. And I feel like that, you know, is pretty right on the money in terms of what's going on in there, and it's fantastic. I love it. The characters are really good. The audiobook is great in terms of giving all the characters kind of like recognizable voices, which is important because it's a relatively large cast. Um, Although I actually also found it very helpful. There was a piece of fan art that I found that had just kind of a basic depiction of all the different characters, and I found that really helpful in terms of keeping everybody straight. Um, and and honestly, the one of the things that the book really reminded me of, I was delighted to discover was actually an influence of the author. She said so in an interview, which is the Zero Escape series of video games. And so the idea that you just got have this big crew of characters that are all trying to solve a mystery, but they have their own various hidden motives and alliances and secrets, and it's all very good and cool, and I loved it, and I'm excited to move on to the next one, which is Harrow the Ninth. So, solid recommendation there for Gideon the Ninth, and I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.